having listened to Kieran, I'm rushing back to Dublin to just check on I've actually, at one point, I have to tell you, I was the proud owner of 3 copies of Charnley and Jones, but I think I have actually disposed, I think I have 1 left. I might have 2, so I'm richer than I thought, so thanks for that. So thanks for inviting me, and I'm just going to give you a very brief overview. Unfortunately, when Fergus and I discussed my input initially, we anticipated that the review would be disseminated, and so that's actually unfortunately not the case. But so in any event, we can give you a very brief overview with some of the main ideas, the main issues that are emerging, and as the Minister said, hopefully you'll have access to it soon. So just quickly then, in relation to outreach and recruitment, we found a very broad range of recruitment methods, but not all VCs have formal referral policies. We did note, and this was strongly reported to us, the very positive impact of the TV adverts in terms of reducing stigma, particularly in rural areas. So we highlighted the importance of such initiatives. And in overall terms, and this relates to the next area, of the place of the literacy service within the broader VEC service, that there should be recruitment organised in partnership with other VEC programmes, but that there should be a specific focus on literacy and numeracy maintained. I'm going to say something very briefly before I turn to initial assessment, just to again stress that in relation to the data collection and analysis, the review showed up gaps and inconsistencies in data collection, and it was felt that this hinders analysis for VCs themselves at local level, but also hinders the work that the DES should be doing in relation to policy development. There just simply isn't the information there to inform policy at this point in all respects. And I'd highlight particularly the area of the unemployed, those statistics. But what we did stress was that there was a need for further supports for practitioners to facilitate the return of more accurate and more detailed data. So just turning now to initial assessment, what we gathered, if you remember, we gathered information on approaches and the administration of initial assessment and the type of tools that were being used currently. So what we found, again, a mixed picture. Most people said that their assessment system was devised by their own VC, their own service. And most people said that the tool they were using, or the system they were using, was referenced against the NFQ. There were mixed responses in relation to administration. In some cases, the ALO, you'll see the figures there, is responsible. In other cases, it's a literacy resource worker or a range of staff members. There are different approaches and overlapping approaches, which may be partly accounted for by the fact that VCs use different, literacy services use different approaches depending on the applicant, or the other reason for the overlapping approaches may be because there's no written initial assessment policy. There's no recorded system in place. Now, we've heard 2 examples of such systems here this morning, but that doesn't appear to be the case across the country. So the level of formality, informality varies, it would appear, and the level to which learners self-assess without any further intervention or structured observation by the literacy organiser or other staff member. That also seems to vary. What was clear to us, and this would be a broader comment I would make, that there's a universal stress on putting the applicant at their ease and creating a welcoming environment. And that applies to the service as a whole, as well as our initial assessment. That was very clear to us. And there was also a universal focus, which we've heard today, of course, and yesterday, on assessment as a process rather than an administrative event that took place in a confined space of time. But what's varied is the extent, as I said, to which there's an external formal assessment by the member of staff as opposed to the learner self-assessing, and also a great variation in the type of tools that are being used. And what's clear is that a considerable number of the VCs, of literacy services, have invested themselves in developing tools which are now informally aligned to the NFQ. And we had a compilation. The report will give you a range of different types of tool that have been developed. Both ITABI, as has been mentioned here this morning already, and the MLJ tools have been adapted. English assessment tools mainly have been adapted and realigned to the NFQ. There's a very clear, in many of the examples we were given or shown, a very clear social practice approach informing a number of the tools. And again, what was seemed to be reasonably common was the type of approach that's been described this morning, where there were sets of semi-formalized questions with free writing used, for example, to assess writing, or simple questions that were relatively easy to administer. We compiled a list of tools, and in some cases it was felt that some of the tools being used wouldn't be appropriate for use with adults, and we referenced actually some work that Nala conducted a number of years ago too, which highlighted the same problem. So in overall terms, what we were concluding was that there was a need to review, which I suppose events have overtaken this specific review, because you're doing exactly what we recommended effectively in the review. You've been doing that yesterday and today. We noted that there was a number of requests for the development of a national standardized model to develop, ensure consistency of learner placement across the country. We didn't actually recommend that. We recommended that in the first place that there should be more detailed guidelines drawn up. There should be collaboration and a sharing of practice to establish what's common and what's seen as what's agreed good practice, that would be the most useful initial step to take. And that there, as you've heard and as we saw during the review, there were so many existing locally devised processes that they could be reviewed, and perhaps some people actually did, during their survey response, offer their systems for wider dissemination. So we recommended that those tools should be reviewed and adapted in the first instance and disseminated. That would be the quickest way and the most effective way of supporting good practice in this area, rather than commissioning a lengthy, expensive external tool. So that's it. It's a very rapid run through. So I just want to finally thank everyone for their participation in the review. and the detailed responses that you provided us with. They were invaluable in helping us draw our conclusions and write the review. So thank you very much, and if you've any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Now,